Well, good morning, Ms. Washington.
Good morning, Ms. Hawkins. How are
First,
you?
good. First, I want to say thank you
Mhm.
for giving me your time to meet with me
Okay.
and for our coaching session.
Thank you
Okay,
for mentoring me.
okay, no problem. My
Definitely.
pleasure. Is there anything that you want me to know right at this moment? How are you feeling?
Just, I'm just a little anxious, transitioning from second grade. Even though I know some of my students will need some of the skills that I have been teaching in second grade for the past 3 years, just transitioning to higher level thinking for my fifth graders and just shifting my thinking to push them to be ready for middle school most of all, but definitely to soar on the park assessment.
Okay.
I want them to be strong writers and wordsmiths.
Okay. Okay, and I know that our park is the end goal, but let's go with closer goals.
Okay.
It's like when we run a race
Mhm.
and you say, oh, I want to be able to finish, I want to be able to run 2 miles. But we don't
Right.
start off running 2 miles, we may run a quarter of a mile, then a
Right.
half a mile. But if we can do those different increments, we get to our end goal.
Right.
So as we look at the park, even though that is the end in mind, let's start planning small goals that will actually lead us to that point.
Okay. And that's where I'm trying to really get an understanding of fifth grade curriculum.
Okay.
I know that, of course, that there's some overlap with some of the skills from second grade, somewhere in there, on a higher level. But I'm just trying to make sure I get a grasp on, and I don't want to wait until.
Right. I understand. So as you know, DCPS on Canvas has the scope and sequence,
Right.
or the learning plan.
Right.
There, the learning plan is a guide. It is not the end all to end all, because we as teachers know that we must adjust to meet the needs of our students.
Right.
But at least you have a foundation in order to move forward.
Yes.
And I know we at the point now when you start talking about initial goals for the next
Right.
couple of weeks, and we've been talking about social, emotional, academic development, or the SEL, social emotional learning.
Right.
And as you start looking at that and its integration into what you are doing in the classroom, can you just tell me about what your goals are at this time?
For my students, I'm trying to get them to, as far as social emotional, to have empathy for each other. They tend to tease each other when students are, when their peers are at a weak point, instead of lifting each other up or rallying around that person and trying to make them come out of whatever slump they may be in. And that's what I'm really working on. So first of all, making them aware of empathy and being able to, I guess, put some steps into place. If someone is upset, you may want to go over and to talk to them, ask them some questions, and if they don't want to open up to you, maybe who would be the next person that you would advise them to go to, or who would be their go-to person. And just trying to, I guess, get them to think about removing themselves from the situation and stop taking things personally when someone is having an outbreak or just having a moment. It's not personal necessarily, it's for you, but that person may be going through something else may have contributed to it. And so just taking that step back and removing themselves from the situation and just trying to think about how they can help that person.
Okay. So this all leads to essential practice 1, building a responsive classroom community. And for supporting weaknesses or ignoring the outbursts of others, that all comes in being proactive,
Right.
and having a plan in place.
Yes.
And supporting weaknesses, what do you have in place for students who need help, or if you haven't done that? Think about something to help students that need help. You could do poker chips. Like if you have a red chip, I need some help. You can even assign 2 students to be like the help masters for the day.
Right.
And that can rotate.
Yeah, I was thinking about using that, not necessarily a chip, but some kind of indicator where the kid can put it on their desk, whether it's like a flashlight, like a stoplight, red, yellow, green. And red is definitely, I need some help. Yellow is kind of green, I got this,
Right.
I'm good. can go on to someone else kind of situation. So
Okay, and so that will let you know, what about students who are afraid to let you know because of how they
maybe
might be
perceive.
ostracized by others?
Mhm.
So what do you think you can do?
I don't know. I'm unsure because I'm nervous about my students, and it's just some of these students have shown me that they might not be open to,
Mm-hmm.
or they just, they really just don't know how. So that's where I am. I really need to figure out the plan, and does it work for everybody?
Right. Exactly.
So that's what I'm thinking. My plan and my backup plan, and I might have to gear a plan specific to certain students because I know they are more aggressive in their behaviors. So I definitely, especially with the conscious discipline component, I want them to talk about how the negative interaction affected them with the other person, and letting them know how they feel or how that person made them feel when they said or did whatever. Because when you hear that from someone, and if you're empathetic, you're gonna change. You're going to shift either your words or your actions toward that person, or even show some kind of remorse to a degree. So, and that's where I want them to get, because at this point I feel like they don't care about each other. They don't care about when they hurt each other.
So that may come into where your initial warm-ups in the morning
Okay.
can be built around SEL practices.
Okay.
Something like take a side.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know about take a side.
Yes.
Stand up, sit downs.
Okay.
Okay, those are always good because it's hard to argue or disagree or hurt someone with whom you have begun to build a relationship.
Yes.
If you ever get a moment, if you read about the story of Columbine,
Yes.
with
Okay.
Eric Burkholder, there was a young man who ran into him in the hallway, and Eric warned him and said, "You need to get out of here." They weren't friends, but this was a guy who had begun to speak to them, began to talk with them, just like, "Hey, how you doing?" Just that kind of thing. And he thinks because he had established a relationship with him, that was why he was able to survive. And so
This is the shooter.
this is right, exactly.
Wow.
Years ago. This is very interesting.
I remember Columbine.
Right.
I didn't know you had that moment with
That's
someone, because they made it seem like he was just so
winning it
cold.
all.
Yeah.
No, because and then when you think about the students that we have the relationships with are the ones we are able to move forward, and it's going to be you as the facilitator is to build the relationships among your students. And you can think about those activities outside of content that they can help them to build and get to know one another
Okay.
and support one another.
Okay.
So I would like you to think of an SEL goal. And if you need me to model first, I can.
Okay.
If not, I would prefer you to do without my modeling at first, so we can see what you do and where you best need my support. Because you might not need my support, there may be another area.
Okay.
We can plan
Okay.
and plan for the activity and how it segues into the actual lesson that is related to content.
Okay.
And with the information that I sent before,
Yes.
you can use that information to actually build activities within the content as well.
I like those.
Okay, I like the posted activity that I sent you
Definitely.
because
That's the one.
I thought it was very interesting. Students do better speaking with partners first, and if they can get with a partner, they feel comfortable with a partner related to when even it's related to content, then when they start speaking in the whole class,
I have something to say.
they have something to say, and the fear may be gone because I spoke to you, but I was
Already
not
practiced.
right. I may not have been right, but you supported your building. You said, "Well, I disagree. You may want to look at this."
Yeah, because I have a couple of students already that have to be voluntold all the time. They never willingly participate, and it's not because I don't think they have anything to say. It's just a fear of not saying something that's right or that can be accepted amongst their peers.
Right, and this is where you bring things that are going on in their worlds first before you bring in content.
Okay.
And so you can say, "Let's discuss a movie." I think just about all of our kids have seen Black Panther.
Yes.
So you say, which character would you identify with? And those students may be able to speak to that. Which character and why?
Mhm.
You know, or if you could have been any character in that movie, who would you have been and why?
Mhm.
And so that gives them a chance to think, and you say, use evidence from the movie
Mhm.
and discuss with a partner and share out with a partner.
Yeah, I love that.
Okay.
And I like it because I think we talked about this before. Once they write something down, they have an idea, then they discuss it with someone, they can go back in turn and maybe adjust their thinking or add to it.
Exactly. Okay. And objectives. So
Okay.
what I would like from you is a goal related to SEL,
Mhm.
and I need to know what your objectives are.
My objectives will be centered around the unit on Westward expansion.
Okay.
Basically, initially, like all this week, we're working on developing reasons, or I guess, for moving west,
Okay.
and deciding who that benefited, and
Okay.
explaining that.
Okay, so if I hear you, you have two things going on.
Mhm.
The first thing is you want students to, you want them to write, say, I just want you with the objectives, I want you to be very,
Very clear.
very,
Okay,
and
so I
very-
want them to
Uh-huh,
explain
okay,
verbally and in writing
okay,
the reasoning behind expanding westward.
okay. Are we looking for one reason, or are we looking for three reasons?
Okay.
Okay, the more
Specific.
succinct you are,
Okay.
and more specific you are, the more your students know exactly what is required of them.
Okay, so at least 3 reasons.
Okay, so, and that say, okay, I need at least 3 reasons, okay. So you will need at least 3 reasons. Okay,
For expanding westward.
okay,
Then I would like to know, I want students to be able to explain who benefited the most from
Mhm.
expanding west.
okay, that is gonna be from the end, by the end of the unit,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So I would even put that there, like the students can explain 3 reasons for moving west. They can start that because this is the beginning of the unit.
Right.
But you
By
let
the
them
end of
know
the
by
unit.
the end of the unit, and
And-
let your students know, by the end of this unit, this is what I am going to require of you.
Okay.
But as they are going through the unit and they are taking notes and they're using,
They should have that in
they
mind.
should be able to have that end in mind.
Okay.
Okay?
Yes. Great. Cool. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I feel a little more comfortable.
Okay.
I do. I feel a
Okay.
little more comfortable.
Okay.
Because I think, just having you to talk to, because just the surface layer objective and
Mhm.
just making it more,
Mhm.
detailed,
Mhm.
and I think that would definitely help my
Okay.
students.
Yes, and as you are planning your lessons, what is the product? What is the end result? Think
Mhm.
about that. And when you do the 3 reasons for moving west, are they going to do a pamphlet? Are they going to do a poster? Are they going to just do an essay? Are you going to give them choices in order to?
I think I'll give them
Explain.
choices.
Okay, you see where I'm going with this,
Yeah.
right? As long as as I say, the bottom line,
Just to
this
have
is
the
what you
3
get.
reason or
But
more.
how they present that information,
It's up to them.
right? And then they say, oh, I want to do a book. I want to do a poster.
Right. Should I create an example?
Okay. No, I would not create an example. This is my belief.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you create an example, everyone copies what you've done.
Okay.
But make sure that you have the rubric, the scoring.
Right.
If you do a poster, this is what's
Which is-
the scoring.
If
If
you
you do
do-
an essay, this is what I'm looking for.
Okay.
So
So I'll
just
get that
make
out
sure
to
you
them
do as
as soon
fair
as
as possible so they know exactly what is required of them. And you can talk through it.
Okay.
And I would even advise you to let them submit drafts early so that you can go to the rubric
Revise.
with them and they can revise.
And with peers,
Yes,
definitely.
exactly.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm on it. Thank you
you.
very much.
Okay. Okay.